This is the HLN Airlin 4K diesel air heater. I had this on the bench a few weeks ago. I did a test. I'll put a link up here. We tested it and it was well built, efficient, quiet, and output a ton of heat. Now, if you have a small rig like a van, maybe a teardrop trailer, maybe a sliding camper, this actually may be too much heater for your rig. So I would like to introduce to you its baby brother, the HLN Airlin 2K. And from a distance, it looks like they put the 4K in a copy machine, set it to 65%, and that's what you get. But why would you choose a 2K, a less powerful heater for your vehicle, than its bigger brother, the 4K? That's the question we're going to answer today. You know, I've heard some reports from you out there on the forums and in comments and stuff that if you take one of these heaters and you oversize it for your vehicle, like you put this 4K in a van, this will output so much heat. It will heat your van up very quickly and it will do a good job, but it will never run on high for very long. It will tend to stay in the low to medium range. And what happens is on these lower heat settings, the burn is not as efficient. You get sooting and fouling, and the burn chamber will choke up on some of these heaters. Now, HLN knows about this problem, and so they've actually developed a program built into their heaters that for every 20 to 30 hours on a lower setting, these heaters will enter a clean mode. Well, they will actually run at a much higher output to burn off any soot in the burn chamber and clean things up. That is really cool. But that is the use case for a smaller heater. Take the same van. You've outfitted it, you've built it, it's beautiful, you love it, and you've got a choice between the 4K and the 2K baby brother. Well, from a space point of view, this is the ideal choice. It fits in a much smaller space. It's built with the same quality as the 4K. It's got all the same programming, the same controller, the same fuel, the same exhaust. Everything's the same except for the size. HLN has worked really, really hard to take the technology in this, shrink it down into a valid package that you could put in a smaller space. And for, as you know, every square foot in your tiny rig is very valuable. The second thing is the 2K will have to run at a higher setting more often to achieve the same output as the 4K, meaning the burn chamber will run at those higher settings more often. It'll burn cleaner. It should burn more efficient, and these heaters actually run better at the higher settings than ticking along at idle or low. So today, I want to test this little guy. We're going to take it completely apart, see how it's made. We'll do some fuel tests, we'll do some noise tests, we'll do some heat output tests. I'm excited to see how this little guy goes. So let me get this thing mounted to the bench, get everything hooked up, and we'll get started. I have the HLN Airlin 2K mounted to the bench with the stock exhaust and the stock intake with the stock silencer on it. I'm using the plate that comes with the heater. This would mount to your floor. I'm using the Wi-Fi controller. We'll go into more detail on this in just a minute. I have my fuel on a scale here, so we will measure the exact fuel usage during our run via weight. Using the standard ducting that comes with the kit, I'm not going to put the outlet on it just yet because I want to test unrestricted flow without it. I'll have this thermometer here installed like that so that it's constantly measuring the output temperatures of the heater itself, so we'll know exactly what temps we're getting at the outlet. I'm using a 12-volt power supply to run this heater. We'll be monitoring its power draw from startup all the way through low and high. So we'll get a good idea of what our amperage is at 12 volts. This controller is really nice. This is the Wi-Fi version of the controller. They actually have just come out with a Bluetooth version that we will test later. This gives you the current room temperature in Celsius. It has manual mode, the time. Press this main button down. Takes you to, that's manual mode. That's auto mode. and that's ventilate. Ventilate allows you to run the fan without having the heater turn on itself. Also, if you press nothing and just turn the main control knob, it goes through the 4 power settings here. The back button is just a back button, but if you hold the back button down, it takes you into the secret menu. It gives you time, where you can set the time. You have an alarm clock where you can turn it on and off with the timer. You have a timer where you can actually set a timer. This is actually where you can set your schedule under the timer function. Like Sunday, you can have it turn on, run for 10 minutes, and turn off. You can do that all the way through the whole week. That's kind of cool. Settings. This allows you to turn the backlight off. You can set the how soon it turns off. That's 10 minutes. You can also set the brightness if you want the backlight to be dimmer in case this is in your bedroom. This is the fast prime function. If when you first install the unit, you can go here and have it run the fuel pump to fast prime. This is the Wi-Fi where you can set up your Wi-Fi hotspot and password. This does not generate a Wi-Fi hotspot. It connects to a Wi-Fi router, and then you connect to it through an app. This button here is your heat button. Press it once, it turns on the schedule. Press and hold it, it actually manually turns on the heater. There it is, it's on. This unit, just like the 4K, tends to run at about 100 degrees C is what the output is on a high, which 211, almost 212 degrees. That's boiling. 100 degrees C, there you go. Boiling point of water. Seriously hot. Throw a tape measure on this. Let's see how far away I can feel the heat coming from this, and hopefully I can make the tape measure stay. 3 feet, 4 feet, 5, 6, yep, I can still feel it, 7. Starting to get real faint about 10 feet, but I can still feel the fan. 11 feet, I really can't feel it anymore. I can feel it on my sweaty skin, the air moving across, but as far as like saying I can feel it, 10 feet's about the range. So that is quite powerful. Here we go. On high, once everything started to ramp up, we are seeing 3 amps thereabouts. It goes between 3.2 to 2.5. It seems to do this a little bit. I would round up for safety and say that on high, fully rolling, it's pulling about 3 amps at 12 volts. Let's see what low pulls. I'm trying to quantify the noise for you. The sound. The sound on this heater is different than the 4K, primarily because the fan is smaller, so it's higher pitched. So I would say, in my opinion, the fan noise on high for the 4K is more pleasant. It's more of a white noise. This is a little more toward a quiet hair dryer. It's just a little higher pitched. It's less pleasant, but it's still incredibly quiet. The noise floor in my shop is 41 decibels. We were measuring, I think, 63 1 foot from the outlet, and I believe 73 near the inlet here. If you put this in a cabinet and had the inlet draw air, maybe further away so that you didn't directly hear this, it would be very pleasant in your living space. Now this is on high. On low, it's going to be a lot quieter. The body back through here is nice and cool. I really can't feel any heat at all until you get to right here. That's 50.3, 54, 60, 80. It's back right here is 80 degrees Celsius. The outlet right now is running at 99 degrees C, so just under 100 degrees C. It just completed the first fuel test on high. I turned it down to low. So on high, I could feel the air coming out of this at 10 feet. Now this is low. Let's see what we got. 1 foot's comfortable. 2 foot, still feel it. That's 3 feet, no problem. 4, starting to fade quite a bit. 5. I can barely feel the heat at 5 feet. 6 feet. I can feel air moving, but I can't feel the heat. It's diffused enough. So I would say the fan is running at least a quarter of the speed it was on high, because I'm guessing if I double the distance, I have to square the fan output. So in a small space like a van, that would be more than enough. And that is 100 degrees C on low. It is leveled out at 100 degrees. That's crazy heat. We're idling along here on low now. It's everything stabilized. I'm going to say the average is 0.3. It seems to bounce around a little bit. It goes below 0.3, above 0.3. I'm going to say 0.3. Started the second test here. Now we're on low. And I have to say, this thing is whisper quiet. I really mean whisper quiet. Outlet temperature right now is 95 degrees C, so still a very hot outlet. The noise floor in this shop, with no cars going by, is about 41 decibels. I was measuring 46 decibels at the blower outlet and 49 to 48 here at the inlet. We're talking about 5 decibels of noise there and like 8 or 9 here. On low, this unit is barely noticeable. It's honestly a non-event. You could be talking with someone in the smallest of spaces and barely hear it. Totally sleepable, totally quiet. It's a very, very polite white noise. The loudest thing is the pump ticking. If you mount the pump under your rig on a frame rail, you wouldn't hear that. Let's talk a little bit about this Wi-Fi app. It uses a app called Smart Life. Smart Life is just a standard sort of home automation type application. It allows you to use smart plugs, and setting this up is pretty easy. You connect your phone to your local Wi-Fi network, and then you'll connect your controller to the Wi-Fi network, and then you will see heater show up under your available devices, and the app is free. So right now it gives you a running state. It's stopped. Current temperature is 24 degrees in this room, but it's set to 25 degrees Celsius. You, at the moment, cannot set this to Fahrenheit. You have different modes. You have auto mode, which automatically maintains temperature that you decide. You have manual mode, which turn it on, turn it off as you need to. You have ventilate mode, which sets your fan. It runs your fan so that you may move air through your room, and you can set your fan speeds. There's 4 different fan speeds levels. Under the settings tab, you have voltage, which currently is 13.7 volts. Timing allows you to add a schedule, which is nice. It's a lot easier to do it on your phone than it is to do it on the OLED display. So I like using this to add a schedule on and off. Voltage setting. This is your low voltage cutoff. You can set whatever voltage you want, that if this unit detects a voltage of 8 or less, or 10 or whatever you want to set, it will automatically turn off and save your batteries. All right, I have all of the data from the testing. Let's go over some numbers and see how they stack up. On high, and we're measuring from 1 foot from the air outlet, what would be in your room, you're looking at 63.5 decibels. And the noise floor in here was 41. Still pretty quiet, but you can definitely hear it. This was drawing 3 amps at 13.4 volts. That's the output of my power supply. So 3 amps on high once it's fired off and started running steady state. It's going to draw more amps with the glow plug initially fires, but you're looking at 3 amps. Now I did a 10-minute run with it going full bore. It used 40.4 grams of diesel in 10 minutes. It had an output temperature of 99 degrees C. Now, if you take that 40.4 grams of diesel and you figure out how much energy is in that diesel at this room temperature, you're looking at about 2.88 kilowatts of energy in that diesel. Now, this is a guesstimation, but if you estimate about a 70% efficiency, that's generous, but that's very doable for this company and this heater. You are getting 2.06 kilowatts out of this. So 2.88 in, 2.06 out at high, which that's exactly what you would expect. In fact, HLN, they rate their heaters real world, so I could totally see that. Now, if you take that 10-minute test and you extrapolate out over 24 hours, what would this consume if it ran nonstop, no breaks for 24 hours? Keep in mind, this is a worst case scenario because this unit, more than likely, if you install it properly on a properly sized space, will ramp up and ramp down. It will reach a temperature and then it will ramp down and sort of idle for a little while. Then it'll go back up when the temperature drops. But worst case scenario, in 24 hours on high, this heater will use 6.93 liters of fuel or 1.83 gallons in a full day of running. Let's go to low. On low, very quiet. The measured decibels 1 foot from the output is 47.5. Remember, noise floor is 41, so you're only looking at a 6.5 decibel increase, which is very quiet, very comfortable. It only drew 0.3 amps, that's 0.3 of 1 amps at 13.4 volts. It consumed 15 grams, that's 15 grams of diesel in 10 minutes. Now, that amount of diesel contains 1.07 kilowatts of energy. And if you, once again, apply an assumed 70% efficiency rating, that is 0.747 kilowatts of usable heat into your room. Now, the average output temperature of this was 95 degrees C during that run. So you're still producing a lot of heat, just not quite as much fan as you do on high. Now, if you extrapolate that 10-minute run into 24 hours, once again, worst case scenario, this unit on low, if it never turned off, would consume 2.57 liters of diesel in 24 hours or 0.68 gallons. 0.7 if you round up for air, so a little more than half a gallon in 24 hours. That is a very respectable performance, both in terms of power consumption, fuel efficiency, the amount of heat you get out of this, and the compact little package. Now the decision comes, which one would you buy? My bus 40-foot diesel pusher, and I'm preparing it for really cold winters. The problem with my bus is it's so long moving the heat. Like if I installed this heater, the 4K in my bedroom, trying to get the heat to the other end of the bus would be difficult. Even though in theory, the 4K could put enough heat out to heat the whole bus, trying to get the heat to the other end of the room or the other end of the bus around the wall and everything would be very difficult. You could do it with ducting, but for redundancy, I would probably do 2 of these. Not cheap, I know, but I would do two 2Ks. One in the bedroom area and one in the living room area. Then I could sort of like have zones. If I'm going to bed and it's warm back there and I want to turn it down, I could turn it down. If the living room's a little chilly, turn that one up. I like that. Previously, I have mentioned adding and tested heat exchangers, like exhaust gas coolers to the exhaust of these heaters to try to scavenge more heat from them to make them more efficient. After having conversations back and forth with HLN, this is really a poor idea. Not because it doesn't work, but because anything that you do to the stock exhaust to restrict the flow or the stock intake to restrict the flow really causes problems with the air-fuel ratio and can lead to excess fuel, soot buildup, clogging of the burners. So when I tell you that if you want a maintenance-free experience with your diesel heater. Don't mess with the exhaust, the stock exhaust. These heaters are optimized for the intake and the exhaust they come with. Try to keep them as close to stock as possible. It pays dividends on the back end. That's what I've learned. when you're trying to make a decision on, man, this little heater is $650, is it really worth it? I say yes, because you have automatic altitude adjustment. I believe it's from 5,000 feet to 16,000 feet. This thing will detect altitude and adjust the fuel level, the fuel ratio appropriately. It has that automatic clean function. Every 20 to 30 hours of low runtime, these heaters will run a real hot cycle and clean the burn chamber out. That is so cool. They're really well built. They're quiet. They're fuel efficient. They come with loads of accessories, controllers, and they're backed up by a company that has offices right here in the United States. They're a worldwide company. I believe they have offices over in Europe too. So I can get service on one of these if I have a problem. Okay, I'm Jason. Thanks for hanging out. This is the HLN Airlin 2K. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, things I did wrong, things I did good, things I missed, let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe. It helps the channel. Give it a thumbs up, all that jazz. I'll see you in the next one. This is the new controller that HLN is shipping out. Notice right away, the very big thing is it is now in Fahrenheit. That is really nice. Also, this controller is a Bluetooth controller. So instead of needing Wi-Fi, you can actually connect to this via Bluetooth. Everything else appears to be the same with regards to settings. Yeah, settings are the same. Fast prime. Oh, we have Bluetooth. So now I'm in Bluetooth mode. Let me see if I can find it with my phone. There it is. Bluetooth. So now I can control this heater. And there it is, 77 degrees. It gives me temperature in Fahrenheit. That is super nice. So now I can control this even though I have no Wi-Fi or sailor data. Now we're in airplane mode. There it is. Very nice. It works with no signal. So if you're really, really out there and you have no access to cell signal or Wi-Fi and you want to be able to control your unit from your phone, the new Bluetooth app or new Bluetooth controller here can do that for you.